Whether you're just starting out or you've been creating art for years, there's always tips and tricks that can make the process easier or more enjoyable. Looking back on my own journey, there are some things I wish I had known sooner, things that would have saved me time, money, and frustration. In this video, I'm sharing advice that's helpful for beginners and seasoned artists alike. Let's get to it. Need to test colors before you paint? Here are 2 game-changing art hacks. Grab free paint swatches from a hardware store. Place them over your sketch to see how the colors will interact. It's closer to true paint colors than markers or pencils and saves you from wasting paint. Even Van Gogh tested colors using balls of wool. Or you can use a free drawing app to test your colors digitally. Import your sketch, try out different color combinations, and swap colors in seconds. No mess and no wasted paint. Both methods help you nail your color combos before painting. Which one will you try? Let me know in the comments. Once you've nailed your color combinations, the next step might be showing off your work. But how do you get started with exhibiting your art locally? Here are some tips I wish I knew back then. Want to show your art, but feel like galleries aren't the only option? Here's an idea that could open some new doors for you. Consider coffee shops, local businesses, and community centers. These spots get tons of foot traffic, and because going to them is part of many people's daily routine, it makes it much easier for people to actually see your artwork. Step 1. Visit and chat with the staff. This is what has worked for me. Many places love supporting local artists. Next, send a friendly and clear proposal highlighting your art and why it fits their vibe. Here's an example of what you can send to them. Want to see what steps you can take next and how to prepare your art for your exhibit? Check out the full video, link is below. Getting your art out there can be exciting, but staying consistent is key, especially when you're feeling stuck or struggling with perfectionism. Let's talk about how to be persistent and keep going when things get tough. Ever been working on a piece and it's just not turning out the way you want? You get frustrated, overwhelmed, and you feel like quitting? Yeah, I used to feel the same way. If a piece wasn't going the way I imagined, I'd just stop and walk away. And sometimes that's okay, taking a breather helps. But as I've gotten over perfectionism in art, I've started taking a different approach. Instead of worrying about how it looks, I just keep going. It's more important to me now to get my creativity out, even if it doesn't look exactly like how I pictured in my head. And you know what? It feels good to just let my ideas flow. Instead of obsessing over the parts I don't like, I go with the flow. If something really bugs me, I can always paint or draw it again, but getting the idea out onto canvas, that's what matters most to me now. So next time, don't get stuck on perfection. Just let your creativity run free. You'll feel a lot better. And speaking of tough times, we've all faced art block. Here are a few strategies I've found helpful for overcoming it. Start with an art challenge. Change things up by using unexpected colors, experimenting with a new medium, or even drawing with your opposite hand. It pushes you out of your comfort zone and gets those creative juices really flowing. Next, change your environment. Move to a different room, head outdoors, or rearrange your workspace. A change of scenery can give your mind a fresh perspective and new inspiration. For even more ways to help you with art block, check out my full video, link is below. Once you've overcome that creative block, finding inspiration can come down to experimenting with colors and compositions. Here's how I use free and easy to use digital tools to test out my ideas. Now I'm experimenting with a drawing app called Line Brush Life. It's free and one of my go-to tools for testing out ideas and designs before I paint. This app has been invaluable for my creative process. In this first shot, I'm trying out a horizontal black squiggly pattern with 2 dots between each line on the top part of the background. I took a screenshot of this design to compare it with other options later. Next, I erased that design and experimented with a black wavy line for the bottom portion of the background. I also screenshotted this one before moving on. Then I decided to try a white starry background for the top part, thinking a space scene could work well. Next, I played around with adding a white wavy line for the bottom. This experimentation is such a fun way to visualize different options and really helps clarify my thoughts before committing to paint. Speaking of experimenting, I've learned that perfectionism can really hold you back artistically. Let me share my experience with overcoming it. My younger self would have never attempted this checkered board design. Why? because I know it wouldn't turn out perfect, and that used to really kind of scare me from even trying. I used to think every line had to be flawless, every shape perfectly aligned, and if I couldn't get it just right and perfect, I wouldn't even bother trying. But art isn't about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself, taking risks, and embracing the beauty of imperfection. This checkerboard design isn't flawless, but it's mine, and that's enough for me to love it. While creating art is all about growth, it's also about being resourceful. Let's talk about saving money on art supplies, starting with how to care for your brushes. Leaving your brushes in water or forgetting to clean them is a quick way to ruin them, but don't worry, I've got a tip to bring them back to life. So instead of soaking your brushes, do this. When switching brushes while painting, drench them in water and wrap them in a wet paper towel or rag. This keeps the paint from drying before you can wash them and makes your brushes last way longer. But what if the paint's already dried on your brush? Don't worry, you can still save it. Grab some hand sanitizer, rub it into the bristles, and let it sit for a few minutes. The alcohol will help break down the dried paint.
A few moments later.
After a few minutes, gently work the bristles to loosen up the paint and rinse it off. And there you have it, your brush is back in action. With just a little care, you can save your brushes and keep money in your pocket for even more art supplies. For more advice and ideas to grow as an artist, click this playlist here. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Happy creating!